Speaking of the class war, should we do this clip from Fox and Friends?
Oh,
For
let's
sure.
do it.
So I don't actually have this one on
Which
my sound
one
sheet.
is it? Because I never know which Fox clip Sam does in the morning, so I'll leave it to you guys.
This is the one regarding Michael Moore and Hollywood liberals and defunding the police, and how they don't really speak to really real Americans. So don't forget about flyover country.
So basically, this clip checks all the boxes for what Fox News know will be incredibly powerful to their audience, and they'll twiddle them in their fingers right there, right in the palm of their hands. They're holding their audience captive with a clip like this.
Yeah, let's watch the masters at work.
Not everyone thinks like Hollywood. I mean, even so many more. I feel like there's so many more middle of the road Democrats. I mean, Hollywood and New York, yeah, they're progressive. That's how they feel. That's how Michael Moore feels. But look at South Carolina. The Democrats in South Carolina are saying that they're losing House seats nationally because these progressives are going in and saying defund the police. Well, South Carolinians don't want that. The majority of them don't. They need to look at this by state basis and see what the rest of the world looks like, or the rest of the country looks like. There are all these states in between, the flyover states, and they feel strongly about police officers and supporting.
Wait, pause it. Like they realize where Michael Moore is from, right? Like it is
Right.
one of the worst examples. Michael Moore is from Michigan and was one of the biggest voices when, in the mainstream talking about the water crisis there. And I mean,
Yeah, he predicted
trying to paint
that
him
Trump
as
was going to win. He was like the only liberal in the media who figured that out.
They're painting him as the elitist, like that guy.
When I see Michael Moore, I think old Hollywood, James Dean. Or
I mean, she couldn't be further off of her examples here. As Emma said, like South Carolina is not a flyover; that's a coastal state. If we want to talk about defunding the police and stuff, well, let's go right down the middle of the country. As you mentioned, Michigan and Rashida Tlaib also there. Ilhan Omar had a lot of success in Minneapolis. There's another one, Missouri. Okay, Cory Bush just won in Missouri. That's, guess what, a flyover. If there's a state flew over more than Missouri, I wonder what it is. And then also, even further south, right in the middle of the country, you have Austin, Texas, which has probably gone farther on the municipal level on defunding the police than any other city in the country. So I think the middle of the country is actually spoken.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not really flyover country. I think the real issue is there's a certain Dixie land persisting in certain areas that we might need to, that gets a veto.
It's the romanticism of like a very specific culture in the center of the country that Fox in their Manhattan studio is pretending they care about.
Word.
Right,
Is there
but
more?
This should be the like sort of the ball, like the play here. Like everyone should be able to see right through this, watching this Fox News clip, all the centrist Democrats, the moderates. They should be able to see, why would Fox News care that the defund the police rhetoric caused Democrats in real America to lose? I mean, why would they complain about that?
I've been helping Democrats.
Yeah, just sit back and let it happen, guys.
Right,
that's what I do.
This is extremely your shit. You love it.
They should tell those Democrats shitting on the left about this rhetoric everything they need to know. Fox News is complaining about it because it's not true. If defund the police caused massive Democratic losses, Fox News wouldn't be saying what they're saying. They wouldn't be saying, oh, they should, Democrats really should turn away from this sort of stuff. No, they would just sit back and watch it happen, like you guys just mentioned.
Yeah,
so I mean, there's the messaging from this clip. If you ask me, that
is there more to the clip though? Did they say anything else?
We can finish it out here.
Okay, cool.
States in between, the flyover states, and they feel strongly about police officers and supporting our military and the people that protect our families.
No question. And
look at that Hollywood, depraved, weirdo, liberal, decadent man, fancy man.
Yeah, I mean,
his trucker hat.
A reminder that Ainsley Earhardt is dating Sean Hannity, so it's disgusting to think about.
Gross.
Speaking of I was just going to say, speaking of Sean Hannity, and as you're going to say, Jamie, Cory Bush, we have another clip that we should maybe tack on here, which is Karl Rove on Sean Hannity. And I guess our opposition, like I think Karl Rove's one of the more nefarious guys of the last, generation. They're not really up to speed on the left threat. Here's Karl and Sean Hannity talking about Cory Bush.
Where people who are naturally conservative say, is there a place in your party for somebody who looks and thinks like me? And suddenly they say, wait a minute, there is. So that is a big, important benefit to us.
And Cory Bush, I think he's from St. Louis, but I mean, your sentiment.
No, different. This is Cory Bush, who's a woman. I believe that she's from Baltimore.
Oh, I didn't know there were two. Okay.
Multiple.
Oh,
that sounds.
So first he thought Cory Bush was a man
from St. Louis.
Right? Then this one.
And then Rove thought he was a woman from Baltimore.
See, this is
so
why
both
they
half
were.
right.
This is why they were so confused in the last clip. They don't know that Cory Bush is from Missouri.
Honestly, to me, the more cutting commentary there wasn't so much the Rove thinking Cory Bush is from Baltimore, and Hannity thinking Cory Bush was a man. It was that Sean Hannity didn't know there was more than two. I mean, that sounded very weird, honestly. Like there's more than two black women running for, or more than two black
I wasn't
people
quite sure
in general.
What he meant by that.
Yeah.
There's not two Cory Bushes we're talking about. What does he mean?
I don't think so. I don't know of a
there's
second.
Not even two Corys. There's not even two Corys.
Right.
Like, who is he? That says a lot.
Well, do we know who he confused her with?
I don't. Who's from Baltimore that ran?
I think he just assumed that the black lady he saw on television, who was talking in a progressive tone, was from Baltimore.
Unless he thought Cory Bush was Jamal Bowman. I mean,
who's also not from Baltimore.
Right. But that wasn't Hannity's mistake. That was Rove's. I'm gonna assume Rove thought that Cory Bush was that one black Republican who was running in Baltimore, who got all that press coverage for her ads. Do you remember that woman?
I mean, the point is just that they don't delineate between black people and think they're all from cities and think they're all radical and want to paint a specific picture. I mean, who knows what they were even thinking.
I also love the laziness where like Hannity's like, Cory Bush is a black guy from Baltimore. Thank you for correcting me. Now that we've corrected that fact, let's move on to commercial.
Yeah, right.
I'm surprised someone didn't come and chime in. I'm sorry. I think you're all thinking of the senator from South Carolina. I mean,
it just goes to show you just like the utter lack of respect that they have for people like her. Because if you know anything at all about Cory Bush, you know that she came out of Ferguson and you know that she came out of the Black Lives Matter movement. That is her defining characteristic as a politician. And if you can't even be bothered to take 10 seconds to Google her, like, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's just disgusting to see it over and over again manifesting itself.
I'm almost relieved because like that, I would think that these guys would be really keyed in on Ferguson activists becoming a candidate. And if they're a little bit behind on that, all the better as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
and low energy these days.
Well, right. Like they pretend. So in the clip before, they talk about flyover states and the elite liberals, right? That they don't care about them. They don't care about the working class. But it's really just a culture because there has never been a more working class, like actually representing the people candidate and now Congresswoman than Cory Bush. I mean, she exemplifies that exact philosophy and like something that's incredibly aspirational, but they dismiss her because she's a black working class woman or someone who came from that background. But if you're a white farmer in Iowa, let's fetishize that to our 85-year-old geriatric viewers.
Yeah, it's almost like working class is really just a dog whistle in their mouths
to
mean white people, because a lot of the time they're also talking to like small business owners and people who are not technically part of the working class, but identify culturally. And it's just one more example of how the media in general, but especially Fox News, mystifies these categories and hides what's actually going on from people.
And the unfortunate thing, though, it seems like Fox News and the right has successfully co-opted the term working class. If you guys remember just a few days ago, when Bernie Sanders went on cable news and spoke about how the Democrats have to continue their reach out to the working class, all these moderates and centrists started yelling at him on Twitter for prioritizing white people.
Yeah,
when he never even said
ridiculous.
he never said that at all.
We just have to ignore those people, honestly. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. They take up a lot of air in the room. They're a bunch of stupid assholes. But like, most normal people do not care what they think in the first place.
And I just want to make a quick point on like the Democrats and if they should listen to the advice from Fox and Friends and these centrists just as a matter of gaining power. Because the fact of the matter is, from a cynical perspective, if I'm a Democrat in leadership, I'm saying, all we had to do to get a huge spike in voter registration this summer was have Nancy Pelosi and Drew wear a kente cloth. Because they're not really doing a whole lot, but it is benefiting them. I don't see a whole lot of evidence that it hurt them a lot. I do see evidence that voter registration spiked for a party that really isn't addressing fundamentally what the activists want. And so, like, the party, if I was a Democrat, I'd continue doing the kente cloth thing, because guess what? People are turning out for you, and you're not really even having to challenge stuff. The challenges are really, like we said, coming from the municipal level, like Austin.
Well, they are and they aren't, right? Because the share of Black electorate in some Rust Belt states, for example, turnout was still up numerically, but white turnout was up more. So the share of Black voters in the electorate fell. And it probably would have been even lower if it weren't for the efforts of a lot of Black-led groups doing grassroots organizing on the ground, some of whom do support defunding the police. So all these people who are saying that defund is toxic for the Democrats, they really don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at Minnesota. Ilhan's district did fine. The Republicans won a lot of state Senate seats, though, in other areas because the party's just weak and it's not trying to win every state.
Yeah. And they're losing. I mean, it's not that many people right now, but it is concerning that some people of color, some Black voters and some Hispanic voters are going over to the side of the Republicans. Like, all I've been saying all of this time, and all that Breonna Joy Gray has been saying, I think she's been misconstrued sometimes, is that the Democrats need to offer something to the Black working class. The Democrats need to be offering something to the working class in general if they want them to keep on coming out for them, and they can't just take their votes for granted.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that's nothing that I ever disagreed with about Brea's. I disagreed about the I can't even say it now, abstention strategy. But like, that's the part I was specifically disagreeing with. But I agree 100%.
Which is why Nancy Pelosi needs to send a carton of that wonderful ice cream to every voter, and the Democrats will be good.